Welcome to an Institute of Refrigeration webinar celebrating World Refrigeration Day. Today, the five of us will be answering some common questions about the refrigeration industry, as well as some difficult ones too.
So on this call today, we've got Liam Davies at Bixer, Gemma Dorner at Maple Mechanical, Lizzie Holmes at Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Luke Hale at Lightfoot International, and I'm Claudia McWhirter for Fridge Hub.
What is World Refrigeration Day? World Refrigeration is a globally celebrated event held annually on the 26th of June, dedicated to highlighting and celebrating the critical role that refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump technologies play in modern society.
So you might be asking yourself, why the June 26th? The date actually marks the birthday of Lord Kelvin, who was born on the 26th of June, 1824, whose works have laid the foundation for thermodynamics, which is the main science behind the refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump industry.
It was created by refrigeration expert and former president of the UK's Institute of Refrigeration, Stephen Gill, hosting a different theme each year, with 2025's theme focusing on cool skills.
So cool skills applies to hands-on technological training and vocational craftsmanship, career development pathways within the refrigeration sector, expertise in sustainable and environmentally friendly solution, as well as the wide range of professionals from apprentices, researchers, all of which are driving innovation.
So today the aim of this event and this webinar is to raise public awareness about refrigeration technologies, spotlight the refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump sectors, and mainly to celebrate the science, engineering and careers that keep food safe, medications effective and homes comfortable.
Let's get to some questions that were sent our way. What is the coolest thing that you have cooled?
So I can jump in there because this is an application that I had never come across in my life until it came about. So maybe not the coolest, but we had a local ice rink in Milton Keynes. It had never occurred to me before that clearly you have to use some kind of heat transfer to form ice. And it was sort of the first job outside of food production and storage that I had ever come across, where actually it's pure entertainment, made complete sense when you did it. The refrigeration plant is huge. We're not talking, small hermetic compressors. It's big frequency controlled screw compressors, and completely a game changer for me in kind of broadening what I knew the industry as.
Strangely enough, I've my partner ice skates and she's been to that one in Milton Keynes, so we benefited from your refrigeration system.
Nice.
Small world.
One of the cool things that at MHI have been involved in, I wasn't physically involved in it, but we've actually got our aircon at Diddley Scott Farm, and I don't know if you've watched Clarkson's Farm, but I'm obsessed. So yeah, we've got a case study and stuff on that.
That's awesome. We the place I work at, we do a lot of sort of defence and military things. So we built a system that can plug into an Apache helicopter and provide cooling to that, which actually operates on the same gas that most cars operate on.
I think for me, it's just mainly like, you see the ones that you want to do a site visit for. So for me, it's like the chocolate factories, the ice cream factories. That's the ones that I want to do a site visit on. So when I get an inquiry through for that, I'm like, I'm going to a site visit.
I think for me, my experience in the industry, I've worked on rentals. So again, the company I used to work for did temporary ice rinks, and that was really interesting. I didn't personally do the ice rinks, but it was an interesting company to work for because it was temporary heating and cooling. And then I worked in commercial, then into industrial, which was food factories, which is again very interesting because you see how your food's made. And also slaughterhouses, so you see, in depth what happens in that area. And now I work for an air conditioning company, so we do high-end offices in London, which again is so, it's such a vast variety of different areas I've worked at. So I can't specifically pick one, but I think having seen so many different areas, I find that, you know, amazing to be able to have the opportunity to see it.
Yeah, it's nice to have seen one bit of everything that
Yeah.
the fridge sort of sector
Yeah.
covers.
I think that's the coolest thing about our job, you know, all around, is we all get to see things that necessarily other people won't.
Absolutely.
What is the coldest system that you have helped produce?
I pull people, so I'm not products, so everybody.
Just
Depends
going back to ice cream, it's always ice cream. That's literally like that's the coldest cold rooms that I've ever dealt with. Like, they're at a much lower temperature than the other freezers. So other than that, I don't think I've ever personally done any or sold any equipment for anything lower than that.
I think
What about
I
you, Liam?
accidentally
Sorry.
made something that was, I think, about -70. I was transferring refrigerant from a R32 bottle into another one, just using a recovery pump, and the dip tube had fallen off inside, so it was just pulling off the vapor. I walked away, came back, and this was just one big ball of ice. And, you know, checking the pressures on the app, it was about -70. Don't know if that counts as a system, but
You've got it there, whatever it was.
Luke, you're quite interesting as well. Haven't you made your own fridge systems before?
Well, through World Skills, we get to
Yeah.
make a variety of systems, which
Yeah.
was like a miniature ice skating rink,
Yeah.
miniature cold rooms, things like that. So it's just a range there of
Yeah.
what we've got to experience.
That's incredible, isn't it?
We've done a few different jobs. So I would say the coldest intended temperature then that we've got on. So we've done some units at -65, combining
Wow.
two-stage systems, both in cascade and having two completely separate systems connected together, one heat exchanger, or having internally connected compressors. You tend to find that on those pharmaceutical sites, obviously have to keep blood frozen, they have to keep medicine at very specific temperatures. Sorry to bring it up, but it was a big thing during COVID. You know, I don't think people can perhaps appreciate or understand how much temperature control there is going to making sure that we can just stay healthy. You mentioned air conditioning and comfort cooling, absolutely. On the other side, you know, a lot of the medicines and things that the NHS rely upon are also temperature controlled. So again, just a vast variety of places where refrigeration is, but it's normally invisible.
Absolutely right.
So if we're going to look at the future of the industry and technology, how do we think jobs in our industry will change with the new tech like AI and robotics?
So I've got something I can sort of chuck in on that, which is I know China have got AI systems built into their air conditioning and their building management, so that if, say, one room has a fault code and, say, a sensor's gone out, that will tell the central system which sensor, which room. It will order the part, and once it arrives in their storage facility, it will then call an engineer automatically and send them straight to the room where it's to be changed. And that massively streamlines fault finding and how long it takes to actually turn around when a fault occurs.
I think it's really interesting that you just said it will call the engineer. So I think that there's always going to be a need for engineers. We can't have like AI and robots like servicing and maintaining and repairing units. I think there'll always be a need for people like us. But I think, as you say, with the technology, like it will call the engineer. I think with like monitoring and stuff like that, we'll get a lot better with the use of AI. But like you say, I think there will always be a need for an engineer or something like that.
Absolutely, it's definitely not a threat to jobs. It's just it's a new opportunity to sort of embrace it and see where we can improve the way our jobs work.
I agree with you, Lizzie. I was going to say there's going to be always a need for engineer because it's always going to be mechanical
Yeah.
And a robot can't fix, you know, something mechanical. So, and I think that not just in our industry, in other industries as well, where AI is, you know, becoming, some industries is becoming quite dominant, you know, I think there'll always be need for people because AI can't do everything. But I do think it will make life a lot easier.
I think it will have more of a positive effect than be a threat in a sense.
I would agree.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
wouldn't.
you'd replace an
Sorry, Bonnie,
engineer.
you go.
No, it's okay. I don't think you'd ever be able to obviously replace like an engineer, like even things like phoning up and asking for parts, like that, and coming into the trade counter and looking at stuff and going, oh, actually, I need that for the van. Like you've always got that aspect, people needing their van stock and things like that. I couldn't see that getting replaced by obviously something that isn't real.
And I would agree with that. It will be a supplementary benefit to us. And of course, there are things here we have to be careful. We've started seeing, you know, requests come in via email saying ChatGPT has told me this is true. And, you know, at this stage, we have to go back and say, okay, some of it is, some of it, yes, some of it you need to be careful on because actually, no, that's not correct. But I would say in the changing world that we live in, definitely AI in control systems is very interesting. There are high demands on energy. There are high demands, as there should be, on limiting energy usage. AI can obviously monitor how systems are running. You can work out what the most efficient points are. And I definitely see that the control and capacity control of systems will benefit from AI, which can just work simply much faster than everyone else can. I suppose the question is how much is enough, but definitely on the control side, I could see AI being a massive bit, as well as the service side, as you've mentioned, not having to wait to get a call from, let's say, a disappointed customer who needs their system back up and running. So it'll be good.
So, with that being said, what new roles do we think could appear in the refrigeration, aircon, and heat pump sector as technology evolves?
I think the main thing will be people who can use AI and integrate it into systems. It will be mainly control software engineers, and perhaps it will go into the service side as well, where people will know how to update and improve what's already out there. But I don't think, like I said, like we mentioned previously, like I said, you still can't touch the engineer. It won't affect that, but it will be a few higher level jobs will probably start to appear pretty soon.
I can imagine with like what you said, Luke, about what they have in China. Was it Japan or China?
China.
Like there's a lot of units that we go to that aren't running efficiently or not running as they should be. So actually with AI and, you know, if we do go on that path here, I think there'll actually be a lot more work in areas because people will know that their units aren't running efficiently or they're not running correctly. So I
Even
think
like a diagnosis, like plug and play diagnosis systems. And,
so there'll be, you know, there'll be people that work on the AI, then there'll be more service calls because people will be aware. Whereas a lot of people aren't aware, they just wait for their systems to break down. And then you get a call out because obviously something's broken or something's gone wrong. But if they have that in place, they will go sooner.
Should almost be a balance with the service calls. I think initially, there'll be more service calls, and then once we've improved everyone's system, they're all AI's monitoring it and keeping the right maintenance going. That there'll actually be less call outs because everything will be running better and more efficiently, as they should be. I
do find actually in the industry, a lot of customers don't maintain their products or their systems as they should or as it should be maintained. So I think it'll be a benefit there in maintenance as well, because people will get them maintained because they will know if they don't maintain them, then these systems won't be working properly. So I can see a benefit there.
Do you think people actually will though?
I like
interestingly, the computer says
you'd like to hope so.
I think if people know about it, they're more inclined to do it. It's just that people don't think they need it, so that's why they don't do it. Whereas if they see you know, if they see if they don't get it maintained, it's actually costing them more money, or if they or if they see that it actually, because they haven't fixed it properly, it's costing them more to run, then they'll be like, oh, because people go where money is, if you get what I mean.
If you can train the controller to start sending push notifications to building managers, like, oh, coil's blocking up, any chance for the maintenance?
I think it's interesting what you said, Luke, about there being a need for software for stuff like this. So, like you said, software engineers, that they're going to need to be recruited into our sector to develop those programs to then assist us in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely just agree with everything, because it is going to be more kind of IT based roles or things like that to actually get us moving with AI. It's not, I don't think it would necessarily be just like us as refrigeration or aircon engineers, but like Lizzie was saying, it opens up the industry to people from different backgrounds and more people from different areas of STEM that can join in and obviously help us improve on the industry.
And sort of off the back of what you just said there, we do sort of need young people to come into the industry then, because a lot of these, let's say, what's the best way of saying it, experienced people, they won't really want to be picking up AI and all the rest of it, because it is completely different to what they've always known and done. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just we need to combine the forces of experience as well as desire to develop.
No, I agree.
How might AI change the way we train and work in the refrigeration, aircon, and heat pump sector?
Well, it'll make things easier, I think. Sorry, Gemma.
No, you go.
I think it will probably just make things a bit easier. Like we've said, obviously we might be able to set up AI in a way that we can get like certain notifications if there's anything going wrong on site, and we can just use it to like, we don't need to be on site to change things. Like I know we've got that option just now with some apps and things, but I just think it would be a lot easier, like just to keep everything kind of running smoothly. I think AI would be a big help. And what were you going to say, Gemma?
I think you've covered basically what I was going to say. So that's why I'm so quiet now. But I do think training as well. So I think part of that question was about how might it change our training. It will give us a need for a wider range of training. And like I think somebody said before about getting people from STEM into the industry. And I think it'll broaden our industry actually, because there will be more roles to go down. You know, there's lots of roles to go down as there is in our industry, but it will just make it bigger, I think, in terms of what training will be provided and what sort of training will be available, hopefully.
And I could see that stepping up in being combined with augmented reality and virtual reality, because while AI is going to work, you will still need to retain the core skills that the industry currently has. You know, not every site is going to be moved on to an AI-based learning system tomorrow. There's still going to be that need, as we mentioned earlier, for engineers to go out to sites. I think probably the IT industry learned quite early on, you can't just put AI in place and get rid of all of the people who actually know how things work in the background, because things happen. So I also see it will bring in some jobs, but do agree, going back to that earlier point, that we won't lose anything from it.
We sort of introduced a new risk as well with cybersecurity, which then has to be factored in and accounted for. So I imagine, like you say, there will be some teething issues with its slow integration. But so it's, like you say, it's not going to be an overnight thing.
It's just working out how best it fits the industry. And I think for us, it will work quite nicely.
I think, like you said about certain applications, it's not going to be for every application. So it's sort of, like you say, you can't put it in and then get rid of everybody, because like you said, there's still going to be an engineer needed for a certain application, and there always will be the need for that, I think.
sometimes you just want a domestic fridge just to keep your food cold. You don't want it to wind and whinge all the time, saying, "Oh, condensers 2% blocks now." And
yeah,
I think it's a worry as well. If you was getting notifications like that about, for example, your fridge, you'd be buying a new fridge every couple of months.
Yeah, you get one that stops talking to you.
I mean, they've got ones now where you can like knock, like to see what's in there. Like, just open the door.
Yeah. It's half a second more to just
think of the energy saved by not losing the temperature.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd say that, Liam.
It's because I've got one.
Oh no!
It's converted.
Can you bring it? Have you got like an app that you can see what's in your fridge when you're at the supermarket? Have you got one of those?
No.
I could do with that because I never make a list with the shopping. I just guess.
Yes,
That's me. I'm a guesser.
It's only got 12 pints of milk in the fridge, and you realise that's a problem.
It's a good job I drink a lot of tea.
Yeah.
It's a good point though, because we laugh, but okay, the food wastage is a big thing, which obviously that's what things like that are counteracted for. But again, maybe there is a sort of world where it educates and informs customers and users on what to load or what is available to load into any given space at any given time. I mean, I've been in some cold stores where everything is stacked to the roof, and then you speak to people who have designed the system. They go, "Oh no, it's single layer only. We don't put that much in there." So again, maybe from that perspective, it helps sort of control processes and bring extra benefits that we might not see immediately. So speaking of training and skills development, it's a nice segue into something I'm very passionate about and have been since I've come into the industry. How do you think training should change to keep up with new technologies?
Well, I think the main reason sorry, I keep going to talk and somebody else does at the same time.
Ahead, absolutely.
I think obviously we need more colleges to start doing refrigeration and air conditioning engineering courses again, because I'm sure you have seen on LinkedIn and stuff and in the news that a lot of courses have been getting stopped, and it's like apprentices are finding it hard to get onto courses in colleges. But I think now we're kind of combating that, because I know obviously where I work at Bear Ref, we've got our own academies now, and we do things like F-gas. So if people can't get into the colleges and stuff, there is still training there. But I think people do, we do kind of miss that aspect to, like, if you want to be an engineer, you can go and find a course in your local college, because now it's like chances are you're going to have to travel. So I don't think that makes it any easier. So I think in a way training should change to make it more local colleges doing it, and also people taking advantage of, like, wholesalers like us building our own academies and taking advantage of that.
I think you make a really good point there, Claudia. From going to college, I was quite lucky. I was probably 45 minutes, an hour out from the college, but I do know people that had to travel 2-3 hours. I've worked with people that had to go up north to college. So I got quite lucky, but also I know people that they've had to stay away for the week to do their week at college. So it's quite hard when there are local colleges doing it, or places aren't doing the course anymore, if that makes sense.
It does put a big barrier, and certainly for young people wanting to come into the industry, thinking, you come in at 16 and you might not have a car at that point. To get that far away to get to the colleges is a serious issue. Certainly with I know Eastleigh College has now closed its refrigeration department. That then makes it even harder because there's less places available. I know some places are actually struggling to get the students onto the courses in the local areas. Like, say, have to send them further and further afield.
And it's really similar to Birmingham. So there's one college in Birmingham that does a refrigeration and air conditioning course. So if you've got people that live a bit further out, like you say, they're going to have to travel quite a bit, which again isn't really appealing to people that potentially do want to be an engineer.
And we had that similar problem in Milton Keynes. There was a guy that I worked with probably 6-7 years ago now, and his choices were travelling to Birmingham, but no space, or going down to London. That was on a Thursday night, so he was in his car from here 5 o'clock, down there for 6:30, there till 9:30, and I can see that. One thing I do think probably will become more relevant is we've got a lot of knowledge and experience, but at the moment it's consolidated in the colleges, but it still exists at the manufacturers. So we have people like ourselves as compressor manufacturers. There are controls experts, industrial experts, heat exchanger manufacturers. I could see, especially with things like AI and software development, where these are things we're also going to have to learn from other people, that there's a lot more collaboration between different areas and companies. If we really want to address this problem of knowledge and knowledge sharing, then why not send younger engineers, apprentices, people around to the experts to learn? Yeah. I don't know if it's something that's been done in the past, if any of you guys have any experience of doing this, but it kind of seems like a win-win to everyone for me.
Funnily enough, that was sort of part of my world skills training, as I actually went to different main specialist manufacturers, and I even came to yourself for BITSA for a week's worth of training, where I would spend a week with an expert on a specific topic like compressors with BITSA, and that really, really helped my sort of learning progress. And like I say, if that could be scaled up a bit more, so to include more students, more people, then that would be a massive benefit to the wider industry, rather than doing like the odd one student every 2 or 3 years with world skills. That there should be widely rolled out.
I think when I was younger, we had like careers day in school, where like you'd either go somewhere or different companies would come in and showcase their business and what they do. Maybe we could like say that is a requirement. Obviously, we have got a shortage of engineers at the minute. Maybe we could look into stuff like that to give the younger generation a bit more awareness of who we are and what we do, kind of thing.
The only way I got into this industry was actually through work experience, which sort of just happened to fall upon the place I now work at, which is Lightfoot. But once I was there, I loved what they were doing. It ticked every box, which is a bit of electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and gas. So it's really quite a wide scope of what we cover. But I wouldn't have known about it, and I'd have just ended up going down the university route because I didn't know that this was an option. So like I say, I think that's a lot of careers need to go into schools more and advertise what they do, what's an option out there. And even if fridge companies could somehow offer work experience, because I think in year 10 in schools now, they start doing work experience opportunities for the students. If then more refrigeration companies could take people on, show them the ropes, show them what they do, bit of brazing. I know there's obviously health and safety sort of steps in there, makes it really difficult to do that. But if that could happen, I think we'd get a lot more young engineers coming through.
I think, Luke, your point there with the work experience, that would be, I think it's quite hard for the smaller companies for like say health and safety, insurance purposes, things like that, but it would be something that the manufacturers could support. I think, I don't know if they would have, have that sort of availability, but I refer to, when I went to school, I refer to this quite a lot. It was the girls did hairdressing, the boys did the mechanics. You weren't told about other jobs out there for people, so I just went and did hairdressing because that was what I knew. So maybe like going into schools and letting them know about our industry and other industries doing the same, it actually gives people more of an idea of what is out there, not just down the university route.
I think it ties in as well to the availability of the course. So when I was going to college, I looked at my local college and looked at the courses they offered. So I went into health and social care originally, but I think if people see that course, they look into it a little bit more, and it might be more appealing to them than another course that they might have thought to do initially.
I think we need to change the opinion of what people think refrigeration is, because every time I try and explain to someone, oh yeah, I work in refrigeration, the first thing that pops in their head is that little open door thing they have in the kitchen. And that's about as far as people know about refrigeration. So it'd be nice if more people could know that, you know, like you say, pharmaceutical, military, everywhere, all the shops.
There was
recently,
we just need everyone to talk about refrigeration as much as heat pumps in the media, because I guarantee now the country knows what a heat pump is, which means they know what a refrigeration system is. We are changing our marketing. That's the thing. But
you bloody know when it stops working.
Well, yes, yeah.
There was recently on the telly, wasn't there? I can't remember what it was called. The lady went round and explained how our fridge worked, how it started, and I thought that was quite interesting, because actually a lot of people watched that show in general. It gave us a good bit of light on our industry, and that it's not just the fridge in the kitchen, it's factories, it's pharmaceuticals, it's, you know, air conditioning. There's so much. I
know that those of us that have watched that will sat there going, is that quite right? You know, she explained that properly. And I know we're all sat there thinking the same.
I think we just need more shows like that to, you know, to get us out there a bit more.
So here's perhaps then a controversial question for the industry. Should apprenticeships be split into two parts? Training first, then you go out and work? Or do you think the current method works of a combination of hands-on and learning at the same time?
I would probably say, I think from my knowledge of an apprenticeship nowadays, is it 1 day a week in college and then the rest of it's on site? Is that correct?
I think there's options now. You can do you can do either or, whichever suits you best. I did both. The first year or two, I did 1 week a month, and then I changed to 1 day a week because it suited my sort of work schedules a bit better.
I think there's benefits in both. I did the opposite to you, Luke. I did 1 day for 2 years, and then my third year I did a week. And I think it really benefited me in the beginning because I was getting lots of hands-on. But as college scaled up, it benefited me going there for the week because I was able to focus on the exams we had or the case studies we had, or, you know, so I think there's benefits in both courses there and different styles of learning.
In relation to the sort of question about splitting the course into learning separate, I think you do need to do both at the same time, because someone can explain something to you and you have one idea of it. By the time you actually get there and realize this is completely different to what was on the paper or on the test or something, you need to actually see them side by side to understand. When someone talks about a TEV in college, you then need to go and see how it's working, play with it, adjust it, to actually understand it, rather than just have a general idea of what things do.
Yeah, I think you've explained that really well, Luke. I think that
people learn differently as well. So some people learn like being more hands-on, some people learn better being in a classroom. And I think having that split will be able to help people sort of learn more. If they're being taught something in the classroom and they're not too sure, but then they see it on site, it can make a lot more sense. So I think Luke, you said that they offer the option now. I think that's a really good idea because people can play it to their advantage of how they learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And following that then, so that would be initially. And what about then moving on to, let's say, an advanced level? Do you think the experience should be gained first, you know, solidify what you currently know, give it a year, 2 years gap, and then continue your knowledge? Or stick in that learning mode, you know, do your first level course and then immediately progress once you've passed and move on to the next level?
I do think it took me about a year after I'd done my college courses to then everything start to click in place in my head, so I was fully understanding what I was doing and I could then sort of run a system completely on my own. So I think it does make a difference then, certainly for the level 3, is to go out, understand systems, learn it a bit better, then come back and get the further knowledge where you get the most benefit out of it.
Gaining the experience, isn't it? Doing the first part, going out there, putting it into practice, and then doing the next bit. I think you can overload yourself with so much, and then you sort of get on site, and it can be completely different to how you thought it would be. when you were actually in the classroom?
Well, yeah, I do think like experience and stuff is obviously it's key, but it does take you time. Like some people are going to take longer than others. Like obviously I'm not on the tools. I work in like the sales department, but when I joined this industry, because I knew nothing about it, there was so much to learn. So I can imagine for the engineers that are actually out doing the work, like you would probably need a couple of different courses to get your head round it, and then a bit of extra time to learn. Like you were saying, look, it took you like a year before you were like, right, this is all clicked now, and I'm sure you still learn stuff every day. But it's just like I think yeah, the experience is a good thing. So doing both of those, like that, doing the RACHP qualification and the F-gas, that would be a good combination.
So off the back of all that, where we're trying to get young people into the industry, we've talked about giving them options on how they run their courses, whether it be a week or a day, every week or month. How do you think we can show young people that this industry is high tech and future focused, and therefore a long-term career?
I think you need to start in schools. That would be, and it's also like advertisement of our industry. That's where we're not a very well advertised industry. A lot of people don't know about us, or like they accidentally fall into the industry, and that's how they end up in the industry. So I think it's advertising the industry, and then also schools are a very important place. Schools and colleges, because or even unis. I think it's very important to get into the learning environment.
And if you go to certainly a lot of the dinners, is that you look around, you see there's some really old people there, a lot of whom have been in the industry forever. So clearly it's a well-liked industry.
Yeah.
It ticks a lot of boxes for, electrical, mechanical.
I think there's a wide range of career paths you can go down and job opportunities.
Yeah, like I said, I think we talk a lot about the engineers, but like I say, there is people and many, many job roles in supporting the engineers from the background, admin, sales, other departments, support. There's job roles there, which obviously need people there to run them.
I think when, like you said, Gemma, like we do need to get into schools. We need to start making more awareness to younger people. I think when we talk about sort of refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pumps, people might instantly think like engineer on the tools, but it's not like that. Like you say, you work for a contractor, I work for a wholesaler. So there's so many different routes you can go down by doing that course. It's not just like, are you going to be an engineer for the rest of your life? Like you said, Luke, you go to the dinners and there's so many people that have been going there for years, and they've probably had multiple roles over the years that they've been in the sector. So it's not just they're going in to be an engineer. There's more scope to do other things over the years.
I think someone on this call who's done exceptionally well and sort of shown that you can climb the ranks is Liam. He's, started down there as an engineer and he's absolutely run his career. So I suppose you got some good tips on that.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you've already hit the nail on the head. First of all, there's a lot of people leaving the industry and not a lot of people coming, which for me, maybe this isn't like the most glamorous thing to say, but there is job security if you want to work hard. We work with a very diverse skill set. You have to have knowledge about all the different things that we've discussed. I can tell you, I've been in this company in various roles in the past 15-ish years. I've not had a day where I've been sat down bored. There's never a day where I look at two problems. So I think people that like variety, that like a bit of stability, it's the perfect industry for. Yeah, the emphasis is really on problem solving, and what we do is a good thing. We get sort of a bad rap because of refrigerants and the impact on the environment, on energy consumption. But look at how comfortable everyone's lives are through the benefits of refrigeration and now heating as we're moving into. So from my perspective, what we do is an important job. It's a good job. We get accused of not being sexy, but actually it can be for the right price.
Well, actually, I think we've ticked most of that questions on the inspiring young people. Should we go on to global impact?
Yeah, of course. So obviously when it comes to us as an industry, we care a lot about sustainability, like Liam mentioned, obviously with the GWP and stuff and some of the refrigerants, particularly the older ones, we get a bit of stick for it, but that's why we're now moving into new sustainable solutions. So just regarding that, how do you think that the world would be different without refrigeration and cooling systems?
I think we'd struggle, certainly in the food market, because every bit of food would be going off within a day or two of it being produced. A lot of food just wouldn't be safe to even eat, like meats and stuff. You couldn't get it to from source to counter in time for it to be eaten or let alone taken home. And like Liam was talking about earlier, the pharmaceutical industry would sort of fall to its knees, and we would lose a lot of medications and treatments that we have available. It would have a massive impact if, like you say, overnight refrigeration and air conditioning disappeared.
Everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, right?
Yeah.
So without refrigeration, no smartphones, no computers, no data centers, no air conditioning when we drive around in cars and vehicles. As you say, no food, or let's say we still have pantries in the house. I've never had
fresh
one.
food.
Never seen one. Yeah, the world would be a simpler place, but definitely not as comfortable as we have it now, for sure.
I think we've ticked most of that questions on the inspiring young people. Should we go on to global impact?
Yeah, of course. So obviously when it comes to us as an industry, we care a lot about sustainability, like Liam mentioned, obviously with the GWP and stuff and some of the refrigerants, particularly the older ones, we get a bit of stick for it, but that's why we're now moving into new sustainable solutions. So just regarding that, how do you think that the world would be different without refrigeration and cooling systems?
I think we'd struggle, certainly in the food market, because every bit of food would be going off within a day or two of it being produced. A lot of food just wouldn't be safe to even eat, like meats and stuff. You couldn't get it to from source to counter in time for it to be eaten or let alone taken home. And like Liam was talking about earlier, the pharmaceutical industry would sort of fall to its knees, and we would lose a lot of medications and treatments that we have available. it would have a massive impact if, like say, overnight refrigeration and air conditioning disappeared.
Everyone has a smartphone in their pocket,
Fridges.
right?
Yeah.
So without refrigeration, no smartphones, no computers, no data centers, no air conditioning when we drive around in cars and vehicles. As you say, no food, or let's say we still have pantries in the house. I've never
No
had
fresh
one.
food.
Never seen one. Yeah, the world would be a simpler place, but definitely not as comfortable as we have it now, for sure.
No, I agree. And I think also people have got very used to in offices, everyone's got air conditioning in their office, almost everybody. And I think people, like you say, those won't be comfortable. So I don't see a world without, I could never imagine a world without it.
Everyone's either hot or cold at some point. So if we didn't have it at all, then obviously you're hot or cold in your office, you put the aircon on or the heating on. If you didn't have it, then everyone would either be wearing coats or shorts.
And like what Luke said, it literally. Sorry, what were you saying, Gemma?
Oh, I was just going off the back. I was just saying it would be a much simpler world, but it wouldn't be.
No one's fighting over controls.
Yeah.
And off a quick Google, I don't think we can verify these numbers, but it says roughly 15 million people are employed in this industry. So that would be a lot of people looking for jobs then if refrigeration disappeared.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just going to say, like, when you think about the pharmaceutical side, it literally saves lives. Like, it doesn't just make our life easier. We're storing vital medicine that people need and blood, things like that. So I think we really would struggle without it, but without knowing about the industry, you don't realise. You might just think, oh, I've got a fridge in my house, but once you get into the industry, you realise just how much we need refrigeration and air conditioning in offices and things like that.
Yeah, the impact in our day-to-day life, just eating, just everything, taking your medication or like say driving your car, using your phone, like every single part of our lives, well, not every single part, but the majority of our lives actually revolves around refrigeration in some sort of way.
Yeah, so off the back of that, what do you think that as an industry in the RACHP industry we're doing to fight climate change? Like, what are we putting in place to help with this?
At our place, we've got a refrigerant recycling system where we can actually take reclaimed refrigerant, completely process it, and pop it out as 99.9% pure. So then it can be reused again, where I think a lot of the impact at the moment comes from recovering refrigerants and setting them off for destruction. We've also got a lot of training into testing so that there are less leaks of refrigerant. We're using better refrigerants that have less impact on the environment, and we're changing systems to have less gas in them, like the hydrocarbon systems that are starting to come in, which also have less impact.
Similar to what you said, Luke, we are going to lower GWP refrigerants for our equipment. So I think the GWPs are only going to get lower. So I think we're obviously introducing our R32 VRF. That's obviously a much lower GWP than 410A. So I think it's only going to go down. So I think we've just got to sort of keep doing what we're doing, research development, and keep creating the products to fit the refrigerants that we can.
And I think as well, like in the refrigeration world, obviously CO2 is becoming more popular, and I think obviously because that's got such a low GWP, but it's basically nothing. That if people can get on board with the technology, which I think people are starting to do, that's going to help us a lot for in the future with being more sustainable. It's gradually helping us towards that sustainable goal.
Certainly, if more installers have the knowledge to install perhaps a CO2 system, because at the moment, if you approach a local refrigeration company, if they're a small two-man band, they're only going to offer you what they know how to install, which may be a higher GWP refrigerant solution. Like I say, with these greater technologies coming out now, more people knew how to install them, then more people would have access to them when consulting smaller companies, because that's sort of the backbone of a lot of the industry is small companies as well as the few big ones.
then leans into the training aspect. If the engineers that we currently have are trained up to the newest technologies, then that's going to assist us even more when we do bring out the lower GWP equipment.
And of course, adding on to that, we kind of have the direct, let's say, refrigerant impact on the environment for sure. But one thing we're really encouraging people to do and think about from the point really of, yeah, I need a refrigeration, air conditioner, or heat pump system. Consider what you need. You know, we don't need to over design systems. You know, if you need 10, 15, 20 kilowatts, design for 10, 15 or 20 kilowatts. Reduce the energy that you can use. That places emphasis on manufacturers to, you know, constantly ensure that we're providing equipment which draws as little energy as possible, but also think about the overall life cycle, you know, impact of the kit as well. Are you using refrigerants which are going to be available in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time? You know, are parts and products going to be available for that long? You know, really consider about load matching. You know, you don't always need something running at full whack to maintain temperature, and actually it's almost like a light switch. If you can avoid components turning on and off for very short periods of time, you can reduce the load on the grid, and overall the less energy that we use, the less impact there is on the environment, regardless of where it's sourced from. So I think that probably adds into everything that's been said as well.
I also think from awareness as well. I mean, it's become a very big thing, environmental change in the UK, but I also think this awareness, World Refrigeration Day, things like this actually make it more of a global awareness. And I think that's something as well the industry is starting to go towards, global, you know, the global impact, but also refrigeration isn't just in the UK, it's across the globe. And I think making people aware, which I feel like we are starting to, people are starting to, you know, change from the things, you know, we've all seen the horror videos and stuff, and I think that is a, you know, a good positive that's happening.
That's actually a fantastic link back to why we're actually doing this call and the purpose of World Refrigeration Day, to spread awareness around the globe. Certain countries still use 22. Sometimes you see it pops up on your phone, you know, you could buy it and they'll sneak it through the postal service and they'll get it around to you somehow. But like you say, I think what we're trying to do here with World Refrigeration Day is improve the world and everyone else who's in the industry. And hopefully we can be one little cog in that chain.
Absolutely. And also use our platforms. We've all got good platforms, use them to spread the word about, you know, the industry, the training, the environment. So I think these are what these things are really for, and they have huge benefits.
So
yeah, I think I just think on that note, we'll just say thank you for joining us today in celebrating World Refrigeration Day. We hope this session has given you a deeper insight into the importance of refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump technologies, not just in our daily lives, but in shaping the more sustainable initiative future.